Hey everybody, JJ here. It is Monday, April 27th, 2020. Today we're going to talk about Bank of America's warning that there will be no recovery anytime soon. There's also rent revolt happening. We're going to talk about a big rent revolt and what that means and where it's happening. Also, the sad reason why millions of customers are canceling their cable TV subscriptions. Now, first of all, if you like these reports, please consider supporting this channel. We have a link to Patreon down there. You can support me for as little as $1 a month, and you do get exclusive content over at Patreon and face-to-face time, where I talk about a lot of things that I don't talk about on this channel. So again, description down below. Thank you for being here. If you'd like to support me, great. Hope to see you over there. If not, thanks for being here anyway. Let's get into the news. Article here out of the Hill recently. Bank of America CEO. Analysts predict economy won't bounce back to pre-virus levels until late next year. So he's talking about late 2021. Now, this was an interview with Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan on Face the Nation. Now, first of all, CEOs are notorious for being overly optimistic, right? I don't think I've ever heard a CEO come out and saying things are going to be awful, this economy is done, people need to start preparing. I've never heard a CEO come out and say that, because them saying that would create basically a self-fulfilling prophecy in many cases, because you have so many people listening to these people. It's the same thing with the Fed. You're never going to hear a true warning coming out of a talking head, whether it be a CEO or a Fed official, right? It's very rare. And if you noticed, a lot of the mainstream news channels, the financial news, Fox Business, CNBC, Bloomberg, a lot of them often have optimistic people on the air, not just the anchors, but even the guests. You rarely see a bear or someone with a gloomish outlook or a real outlook, a realistic outlook on these news channels. But I don't think these people, these CEOs and these talking heads, are doing people very many favors by giving an overly optimistic outlook on a recovery. How are we going to recover? If you listen to this interview, what he's talking about is stimulus, unemployment, right? How is pumping stimulus and unemployment going to get us out of this mess? This is a problem that was caused by debt, but it seems like all I'm hearing is more debt. So more debt to fix debt. So more drugs that cause the person to overdose in the first place, and that's going to fix the problem, right? So you probably heard the term, if you're in a hole, the best thing to do is quit digging. Well, all we're doing is digging further and further and further into debt. And it's already past the point of no return. And I think there's going to be a big, big price to pay for every one of us. I don't think anyone's going to get out of this unscathed unless you're a multimillionaire, top 1%, bunker over in New Zealand. And I won't play the audio, but here's an excerpt here. He added that stimulus bills, the sale of personal protective equipment, unemployment benefits, and stimulus checks are entering the economy. And, quote, we're starting to see the effect of those. So he's all about the stimulus. More debt, unemployment, people wearing masks so they can get back to work. The problem is, will there be any work to get back to for so many people, right? 26.5 million people unemployed just in the past 5 weeks. Now, I'm actually waiting for the shadow stats number to come out. Remember, it was already over 20% if you don't cherry pick the numbers, if you count the truly unemployed people, right? People out of the labor force, new graduates, people underemployed or working part-time jobs that actually have a degree, right? So I would not be surprised to see the shadow stat number at 35%. We'll have to see. It's going to be coming out, I believe, early May, so just a week or so, I believe. And we will be here to report on that for you. Next topic, rent revolt. We've talked a few times now about how so many people were not able to make their April rent payment. And remember, it was nearly 1 in every 3 people could not pay their rent, and it's likely to get worse. Now, some states are slowly opening back up, and others are going to be opening up very soon, and we'll have to see what happens. With this sickness situation, it could take another turn for the worse. I don't know, but I do know that even if the sickness outbreak continues to decline, it's going to be very, very difficult for things to get back to pre-recession levels. We're going to have so many people without a job to go back to, right? The debt for these people is still there, and this is going to bleed up to the banks. The banks are going to have to get bigger and bigger bailouts. But here's the story here. This is out of Wall Street Journal. Rent strike planned for May 1st as pain of the virus deepens. Okay, and this talks about a building in Queens, New York, and all of the residents basically got together and organized essentially what's a strike, not paying your rent. So it's similar to a union, somebody at factory that goes on strike, and they all get together and they say, hey, we're all going to do this together. Together we're stronger. Imagine if everyone in the nation did this, if there was some sort of mass organization where people said, hey, I'm just not going to pay the rent. Right, and it's happening in other areas, but this is one building where all of the tenants said, sorry, we're not going to pay rent. So the landlord, they might have a big mortgage on this, maybe not, but you could see how things like this could very easily bleed up to the property owners and the landlords. And again, if they're carrying a mortgage on the property, that's again going to affect the banks. You're likely going to have to see banks get bailed out, which is going to, it's already dwarfed 2008, all of the stimulus and bailouts that we've already pumped into the economy. And this is a president who said we were not going to be a socialist country. Well, he has performed the most socialism out of any president in history as far as the stimulus and the bailouts. And in fact, this president is on pace to outspend the previous president. And this is the president that criticized the socialist actions of the previous president. So I think you can see it's pretty much all a fraud. It's all a bunch of lies. Right? All they have is debt and spending and empty promises. And we need to prepare ourselves because a lot of people are being also fooled by politicians and what I think is false hope. So I think we need to prepare for the worst. I'm not trying to spread fear. I just think everybody needs to be prepared for a worst case scenario. Things could get a lot worse, right? Maybe there will be some type of miracle on the horizon, but all I see and all I hear out of leaders and a lot of these people that are being featured in the media is more debt to fix too much debt. Also, we are having millions of people cutting the cord. That means getting rid of cable TV. A lot of people solely just rely on the internet. And this is going to be the sad reason why millions of customers are canceling cable TV subscriptions. Now, many of them, there's a financial aspect to it. One of the first places to cut expenses is going to be entertainment. And again, with the mobile phones and computers and internet, a lot of streaming devices now, many people are cutting the cable, but not for the right reasons. They're not cutting it to save money in many cases. Article here out of Cord Cutter News. Comcast forecasted to lose 1.67 million paid TV subscribers in 2020. So far, it's been a bloodbath of people canceling their cable. Now, on one hand, you would say yes, because it's the job losses. People are being more budget-minded. People don't want to waste money on entertainment. That's part of it. But look at this. Report here out of broadcastingcable.com. 74% of young adults say they'll cut the cord or they plan to cut the cord. So 3 out of every 4 people almost cutting the cord. That would be even worse than the forecasted 1.5 million people leaving Comcast. Now, one of the number one answers for the reason why these people are choosing to cut the cable wasn't just because cost, is because there's no sports to watch. So people are willing to pay sometimes $100 or more a month just to watch sports on TV. Right? And you might have heard, if you've been on this channel, that's one of my pet peeves is people wasting money on entertainment. You can get just about everything for free on streaming, on the internet. Right? Maybe not every show and every sports game, but for the cost, I choose to just watch highlights. If there's a game I want to see, I'll go to YouTube, type it in. The highlights are usually there. And you can skip the huddles. It's usually just the highlights and the action from the game. For example, the NFL, a 3-hour something game gets condensed down to about 10 or 15 minutes if you just look at the highlights. But I really hate to see people wasting money on entertainment when you already have. I just think there's a lot of people highly overpaid in this country that really don't contribute much at all. Look at the entertainers, look at the actors, the athletes, millions and millions and millions of dollars for acting, fake stuff. They're acting, throwing a ball around. And I think this is the time where people really need to try to live small. A lot of people want to look like they're living large, but the time is to live small, cut back, try to put back some savings, because we could be in for some very dark, rough roads ahead. I just don't want anyone to end up, in a bad position like we talked about in a couple previous reports ago. People living in tents now. We're seeing a big surge here in Southern California. Do not want to see homeless increase. In fact, I want to see more solutions for homeless, but something else really we're not hearing out of our quote-unquote leaders from this country. So we need to prepare. Thanks everybody for watching this report. Hope to see you here again soon. Bye for now.